Well, hey there. If you're watching this video, well, obviously you are, right? There's a pretty good chance you are doing so because of the title. And that is, what will churches do on November 4th? That, of course, is a reference to the day after Election Day. Well, why should churches have to do anything? More on that in a moment. I want to share with you some of a daily devotion that I read. I read several of them. This one is from Bob Goff, prominent writer, preacher, and I peek ahead sometimes. I just do. I love his work, and sometimes one a day is not enough. November 10th, the one for November 10th. The way we treat the people we disagree with the most, is a report card on our faith. The people we disagree with the most, how we treat them, is a report card on our faith, Bob Goff says. He then cites Matthew 5:43-45. You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. I think it's fair to say that on this Monday, November 2nd, as I record this, we as a nation are as divided as we have been in my lifetime, and that goes back to 1961. 1968 might be a second. I'm not even sure it's a close second to where we are in 2020. It has been just a horrible year. There's really no way to sugarcoat it. And how you managed it, in my opinion, is how close you are to Jesus and how much you trust him and surrender things to him. But I think as divided as we are, there's a possibility that even that will be amplified after Election Day tomorrow. Unless there is a landslide by one candidate or the other, and even then, that forecast would be at least somewhat true. We very likely are facing a count, not a landslide, a close count, that will continue beyond November 3rd. This has happened before, but it's going to be different this time. There could be early declarations of victory, early indications of heading to court, people on edge, acting on that nervousness, and on and on. And I believe it is going to be the responsibility of churches to be the unifying force. In fact, I know this seems incredible, but from the beginning of COVID-19, as it began to divide us, I prayed, and I believe in my heart God will ultimately use it to unite us. But I don't know how much more division will take place, assuming I am right about that, and I ain't the Holy Spirit. So I'm not saying I'm right, but in my heart I believe that's what God is up to. That somehow, some way, this increases his kingdom, brings glory to his kingdom. So the first thing that has to happen is churches need to be united. And I know that some have shown political stripes on both sides of the aisle. Jesus doesn't call us to be conservative Christians or liberal Christians or any hyphenated political affiliation Christian. He calls us, in fact, not to be Christians, but to be followers of him, Christ followers. Irrespective of politics, we should be able to unite under him. Bob Goff in this devotion says this: I've started a new practice that has revolutionized the way I see people I don't agree with. If he hears a pastor or politician say something really offensive, he sends them a treat. Sends them a treat, a cake pop in this case, or a Jolly Rancher. And it's not passive-aggressive. He tells, hey, just thinking about you. That's what Bob Goff chooses to do. There are going to be all sorts of opportunities in the next couple of days, or maybe even weeks, to do something such as that. But I know this, if we are going to unite, if I am right, and ultimately, that's what God has up his sleeve here, churches need to be the cutting edge of that. We need to be leading that. Churches certainly can't be divided among themselves. A house divided cannot stand. Yes, Lincoln said that. Jesus said it first. A house divided cannot stand. Divided against itself cannot stand. Churches need to be united. In fact, Jesus said in John 13:34-35, "A new command I give you, love one another, just as I have loved you," washing manure-laden feet, the Last Supper, and other examples like the crucifixion, "just as I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know you are my disciples if you love one another." That needs to begin with churches. Let me give you an example. Halloween, our ministry did a trunk or treat. And we connected with the ministry. It does not believe that churches and ministries should go anywhere near Halloween. But it's a mockery of Jesus. Churches have that difference of opinion. Ministries have that difference of opinion. No, we are not to be of this world, even though in this world, but Paul taught we can go where the lost are and meet them where they are. So it's just a difference of opinion. That shouldn't divide ministries and churches and lead to finger pointing. And churches certainly, in my opinion, should not be defined by a political ideology. I consider it false idol worship for churches to be proselytizing politically to either way. As Scott Sauls said in his excellent little book, Jesus Outside the Lines, God's not on conservative side, he's not on liberal side, he's not on anybody's side. He wants everybody to be on his side. And Sauls goes on and says, as a Christ follower, you should feel more comfortable with a fellow Christ follower who doesn't share your politics than an unbeliever who does. But how many people, how many Christ followers can say that? Not nearly enough. So as divided as we are, in a couple of days, it could be a lot worse, probably will. What will churches do? What will you, if you are a Christ follower, what will you do to follow Bob Goff's lead? What will you do to be part of the solution that I believe God has up his sleeve to unite? How will you respond to someone who's a fellow Christ follower but doesn't share your politics? How will you react in person, if for those who meet in person anymore, social media, and so on? We in the ministry, we in the church, it's up to us. All of us, not just those up front. We need to be the unifying force. I love the Matthew West song, when Matthew West, singing, sees all of the terrible things going on in the world. And he just shouts to God, kind of shakes his fist, "Why don't you do something?" And God responds, "I did. I created you." He created you. There's a really good chance we'll all need to answer the call on November 4th. May God bless you.